You know, this past summer I had an opportunity to be on the trail with Chris from iDrive. And Chris was watching me wheel one of the bigger obstacles, and I struggled a little bit on that one with my new 2020 JL. And afterwards, Chris came up to me and said, you know, it looked like there was a momentary lapse between when the spotter was calling for power and when the Jeep started to put the power down. This is one of those instances where I had to bump, the Jeep up over the obstacle. So Chris was nice enough to send me one of his new iDrive throttle control units. The plan is we're going to get this installed on the new 2020 JL Recon. We're going to see what differences we can note. I'm really interested in see how it responds with the new A speed. I ran one of these, as you recall, on my previous JK and absolutely loved it. So let's get this installed on the new Recon. Let's see what it can do. The EVC controller is now called Ultimate 9. Let's get it unboxed and see what you get. Here's a look at what comes in the box. Everything you need for a complete install. Here you can see the straightforward, simple design of the unit. Now let's get this new Ultimate 9 throttle controller installed in my Jeep. Here's a look at the stock throttle assembly, and you can see where the wiring harness plugs into the top of this unit. First step is to separate the stock wiring harness from the throttle assembly. To do this, lift up on the red locking tab and then separate the harness from the throttle assembly. Next, let's plug the Ultimate 9 wiring harness into the factory wiring harness and then into the top of the throttle assembly. Here's the finished pic to show how mine resides. There's a small pigtail coming off the new wiring harness. This is where the throttle control unit will plug into. Alright, so we just installed the brand new iDrive unit on the 2020 Recon, and first time getting it out on the road, so right now I've got it in its stock trim level. So let me switch over. Let's run through some of these settings and see what we find. So first off, I'm going to go to the AC setting, which is their adaptive control. So see how this feels. Okay, already I can feel just rolling, the downshifts are a little more pronounced. Let's see how it feels from a stop here. Okay, so it gets in there. It's definitely reacting a lot quicker. This feels good. Let's go a few more blocks and see what we think of. Yeah, it almost feels like as if when I get into the pedal just a little bit on AC, that it might even be dropping 2 gears. It's a little harder to tell with the 8-speed how much of a step down it is, but it feels almost like it might be 2 gears because the hit's hard. And of course with the turbo, when you're rolling with it, its response is so immediate. And it's just got such a great, it definitely feels like it's pulling a lot harder down low. I was saying the turbo has such a nice linear feel once you're rolling, that it makes the Jeep kind of effortless to drive in. So on AC, once again, it feels like iDrive is matched up really nicely with what the transmission is doing. So, and I almost feel, let's get into the U settings, which is Ultimate now. Let me switch over there. I almost feel like, all right, let's do this. Let me do another block or half a block on stock settings so I can kind of get reacquainted with that. And that will give me a good baseline for when I switch over to the Ultimate. Okay, so there's stock. Like I said, This vehicle in stock form drives so well. It's got such a nice pull with the turbo, and the from a start, the assist of the electric hybrid motor, that generator unit we're running. So anyways, let's all right, this next block, so I'm switching over to U here, which is the ultimate settings, and here's U1. Okay, boy, that's nice. You know what else it's doing? Just like on my previous JK, when we tested the iDrive unit there, I think it holds on to the gear a little bit longer. Now, of course, the translation for this on the turbo is keeping that gear just a millisecond longer, whatever it is going to result in a pretty much pronounced, that's a harder pull for sure. Okay, let's move in bigger chunks here now. So here's U5 from a dead stop. Okay, all right. So now let's cruise a little bit around on U5 and see what we think. Like I said, what I'm curious about, what really these units really have a great effect on is just drivability. So throttle response, throttle inputs, and how quickly the vehicle reacts to them. So what I want to see is that we're not getting, I don't want to make it too jumpy. Alright, so the U settings, the ultimate settings, feel really crisp, really nice. Let's roll along here. Yeah, downshifts are super clean, and they seem like they might be happening just a little bit faster. There's 2 gears, yeah. So that's definitely telling the transmission we're in the pedal a lot harder. Give me 2 gears and off we go. So, all right, let's go to U9. Dead stop. Okay, so that's nice. Be careful through the neighborhoods here. Yeah, U9 is a little jumpy, as you would expect. It feels a little bit like we're just driving it a little aggressively. So, which of course we are, but. Yeah, it's definitely holding on to a gear longer. It pulls hard once you're rolling, and the downshift are just saying, "Give me more." So there's U9. All right, now let's do this. Our next test will be, let's get on the interstate and see how they feel out on the interstate and see what we like. All right, so we're cruising at about 35 right now. And I'm on AC mode again, getting used to this. It's aggressive. The turbo, it kicks on real hard with it. So while I'm loving the performance of it, I'm wondering if it might be just a little bit yeah, it's quick. It's really aggressive off the line too. Which of course feels nice, but like I said, my initial impression of it is it feels pretty aggressive. Yeah, I don't know if you can get a sense for. Okay, it's like I said, that's AC is kind of made this feel completely different. Wow, surprised. I know I'm not making any more power, but the ability to connect so quickly via the throttle is it changes the personality of my Jeep completely. So, all right, now we're out on the interstate, running 55 at the moment. Let's step down and see what it does. Yeah, it's just super crisp, super responsive. It takes a moment to get used to it because you're driving stock, you're used to a certain pedal pressure, right? And now that same pedal pressure feels like I'm halfway again through the throttle. So yeah, downshifts are super crisp with this. Interesting. Again, the iDrive unit just seems to perform really well with the transmission software. These downshifts they're striking, the difference between running it off and running it on. So now let me switch out of AC. I just went back to the stock setting. We're rolling about 70 now. Yeah, see, there's a gear. Feels great. Like I said, the turbo on when you're rolling with these turbos it's just a super linear pull. Once you got it all spinning, now I'm going to switch now to U9. Yeah, okay. Let's run through the ultimate settings here a little bit. Like I said, this isn't really the biggest test for it, because once I'm cruising, I'm already in the throttle. So what I am noticing is it's affecting the downshifts are faster. It holds onto the gear a little bit longer. All right, now run up 75 to 80. That's where the 2 liters shine. On the interstate, they just roll. Okay, so even out on, so here we go. So for the interstate, here's what we got. For the interstate work, the difference you're going to feel is the downshifts are going to feel a lot more crisp, and the pulls just feel more solid, if that makes any sense at all. The Jeep has got a pretty smooth shift pattern built in, which, makes sense, right? It's not too jarring, it's easy to drive. But with the iDrive, you can tune that to be much more aggressive, which is quite fun, right? Set this up the way you want. All right, let's go through. I went from U9 to U1. Let's see how that feels. That's nice too. I mean, just basic drivability, that feels great out on the interstate. I mean, for me, it's a Jeep, right? I don't drive super aggressive. Why would you? But these settings allow you to tune in some really nice drivability characteristics, which, frankly, I'm loving. Okay, so we're cruising now on U1. Let's get back to some, block to block, normal commute kind of stuff, and see what we think between stock and AC and the ultimate mode setup. All right, now keep cycling back and forth through the different modes. I'll go back to stock for a moment. Let's do that just so I can get reacquainted with standard stock pedal feel. And then let's switch. We'll go to AC first. Let's do that on the fly here. So you can switch between these modes. iDrive just recommends you just let off the throttle for a sec. All right, now we're in AC. Yeah, it completely changes the behavior and characteristics of my Jeep. It just feels so much more direct and so much more responsive. It requires very little pedal input before you're making things happen, right? Downshifts, strong pulse, see, like, wow. Okay, and it's hanging on to the each gear so much longer. So that was AC, which right now to be honest, I'm finding AC to be just a little bit aggressive with my turbo. So for day-to-day commuting, right, driving. So now let's switch over to Ultimate and run through those and see what we think. Okay, so I'm on U1 now, and yeah, it's just, boy, it's nice. Actually, you know, with the turbo, the Ultimate settings feel great. On my JK, I liked the adaptive control, the AC, or automatic control. This is, for the turbo, the AC feels just a touch aggressive to me. I don't like to really, you know, drive that hard, so let's see here. So U1 feels great. Here's U2. Yeah, boy, downshifts, you guys, are just superb with this unit. This is great. Yeah, it's just so immediate and so responsive. So, all right, U3. Wow. You know what else you can? What else I really love about this is it's calibrated in a way that none of these settings are, you know, they're not superfluous. Each one you can feel the difference between each one, and I like that because, you know, I've seen manufacturers build in a bunch of, you know, settings, and then when you get in there, you're like, I can't feel the difference between 1 and 5. So what's the point? But not so with the iDrive. This is every time you click on one, you're aware that you've changed the calibration. Okay, we're moving up through right now again. So I'm cruising at 40. U6. Yeah, it's nice. Just, it's like, how aggressive do you want it to be? So this is nice. Once again, man, hats off to iDrive. These guys have got this set up really well. And you know, again, I sound like a broken record, but the difference between how this plays with the turbo, my 2-liter turbo with the e-torque, is so much different than the way it played with the V6, the 3.6 V6 I had on my JK. So U8, yeah, you know, for right now, I'm thinking I'm gonna pull a few more miles on this, but right now I'm thinking that my ultimate setting would be probably Ultimate 2 or 3. It made a huge change in throttle calibration as well as downshifts and the way it's holding onto the gears. So I'll run this a little bit. My initial impressions now is AC feels a little bit aggressive for day-to-day driving with the turbo. Wow, it's so nice. This has just changed the complexion and the feel of the way my Jeep drives. And what a wonderful thing, right? To be able to tune that. And all right, now let's go. One thing we haven't done on the street, but I think this is going to be great off-road. I'm going to go over to now the, okay, now I'm on the E setting, which I think they call their economy mode. So let's see what that's like. Yeah, that just, you know, that just flattened out that response curve on the pedal. Everything is super smooth. Downshifts feel very close to stock. They're very smooth. You know, if you've driven the 8-speed, you understand how smooth these things are, because we've got 3 more gears in there. So I think E would be nice to not have a big hit on the trail, but yet I would say the pedals, let me switch between standard setting, stock, and E. The pedal is definitely a little more sensitive than stock on E, but that the curve is different for sure. It's smooth. It's really, really smooth. So, okay, so E, we're not going to have a chance for a while to test that off-road, but unfortunately, I think that would be super helpful when we're crawling. And hopefully I can, before too long, get back on the trails and give you guys an update on how that performs, off-road. But right now, U3 seems to be where I want to run this thing. Like I said, one more time, it changes the personality of the Jeep. It's so much more responsive than it was stock. And so that's it for the road test. Like I said, we'll get a few more miles and see if we stick with, we want to run AC as our preferred, but right now my thinking is I'm going to stay in the ultimate settings, probably in somewhere between 1 through 3 feels really nice and responsive without being too aggressive and too jerky, If you got a passenger with you, that jerky on and off feel is, that can get a little tiring. So, all right, that's it for now. All right, let's spend a little bit more time running through the economy, our E settings. See how this feels, because earlier I was playing with just the lower part of it. I want to see. All right, so I'm going to go from E1 all the way to E9. Yeah, like I said, one of the nice things about this unit is you can feel a difference between each setting and how the throttle reacts. So, looking forward to running E off-road. I think that would be super helpful to not have that throttle tip in too aggressive, especially with the turbo. The Jeep tuned the turbo to make its torque lower in the RPM range, which makes it super drivable. But at the same time, in 4-low, you wouldn't want that hit to come on too fast. So the E settings will probably be superb. Yeah, E9's nice. You know what? I also notice again, it's E9 has a completely different feel with the way it interacts with the transmission and downshifts and how long the Jeep will hold on to a gear versus E1 or even U9 versus E9. So once again, hats off to iDrive for the really large range of tunability with this unit. I'm really impressed. This is great. Wow, okay. I've just been playing between, I'm trying to figure out which one of these I like. AC for just daily driving on the street in the Jeep, or if it's one of the ultimate settings. And this is tough because AC hits hard. I mean, it is aggressive in my Jeep. Almost a tad much with the turbo, feels like. So this is tough, but right, nice to be able to choose. All right, let's switch off of AC and get over to Ultimate. Let's go Ultimate 5, right in the middle, and see how this feels. Yeah, it's just a little bit, it's not as aggressive as AC plays, the adaptive, so I think this might be one of the low to mid U settings. Might be nice. Wow. So that was a chirp off the line in U5 and another chirp on the first to second gear shift. And that would kind of give you a little bit of an idea what it's doing with the transmission settings. So it holds on to a little bit longer, and the shifts just feel a little bit more crisp and immediate. So, all right, for me right now, I think it's somewhere in the U1 through 5 for the street. 5 feels a tad aggressive still. Let's see, let's go down to let's go 2. See what this feels like. It sure is a lot of fun, being able to change the personality of the way the Jeep performs, the way it feels on the street. So, what a cool thing. All right. Yeah, you know what? Okay, for now, I'll get back to you guys. U2 is how we're gonna run this thing. See what I mean? It's, man, it'll put yeah, it'll put the power down, and it'll take your Jeep to a place it just doesn't feel like stock, and it really is kind of uncanny because you swear you're making more horsepower, but you know you're not. It's just throttle response, and the throttle response with the turbo. I'm seeing some really big changes in the Jeep personality to be able to get to that sweet spot that, you know, where we're making the most power quick with the turbo. Feels really good. So, loving the iDrive unit. As we pull back here into the driveway at home, we'll figure out where to mount this thing, but get yourself one of these. These things work. This is where I mounted the controller. Now I'll quickly walk you through how I did that. I sourced some Velcro with self-adhesive backing, attached one piece to the center console and another piece to the back of the control unit. My thinking here was that I wanted to be able to remove the unit for handhold use, as well as to be able to have it secure where I could reach down and change the functions. The mounting location as well as the Velcro have worked out really well. We were able to do some wheeling with the new Ultimate 9 throttle controller installed in the Jeep, and we found that the E settings worked perfectly in the off-road environment to control throttle modulation. We hope you've enjoyed this review of Ultimate 9's throttle controller. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you on the trails.